Welcome to Tailoring Talk with your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London Suit and Shirt Makers. It's the podcast where you drop in full the threads, but often leave with something unexpected. We'll meet self-starters and creators to learn about their journeys and the lessons they've learned along the way. Please support the show by subscribing, and it helps so much if you take a few seconds to rate and review if your listening app allows. Have you been frustrated at trying to make your LinkedIn efforts work, but nothing seems to change, no matter how much time you spend on it? You listen to every guru, attend every webinar and workshop, you follow all the advice in books and podcasts, and yet still things do not shift for you. Help is here because today's guest is an expert LinkedIn profile writer who spent the last 10 years helping people position themselves as the go-to expert within their industry, structuring their business so prospects come to them pre-sold and ready to buy. She's the founder of the Profile.company and the Expert Economy, and author of The Expert Economy, What to Put on Your LinkedIn Profile, and Grassroots to Green Shoots. Tailoring Talkers, please have your notepads ready, and let's welcome the amazing Naomi Johnson to the Tailoring Talk show. Naomi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And you know what? It's slightly unsettling in a good way, but also lovely to have another British accent on the podcast, because aside from our Bond episodes, we don't get so many of those.
Yes.
So welcome.
And the other thing that we can share and enjoy, because I just stepped outside, is today is probably the hottest day yet of the year. It's actually warm.
18 degrees. It's a scorcher for us.
Wow. No, I know US people are like, what are you talking about? It got warm ages ago.
Yeah, no,
we
exactly.
never got that cold.
Exactly.
This is late for us, and it's, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, totally. So you're in lovely Chichester.
Nearby, yes.
Nearby, exactly. Well, compared to Los Angeles and places like that, you're just down the road.
I know, it's a weird one because I live in a village by the sea, but no one would know it if I said it. So just go, it's either between Portsmouth and Chichester on the south coast.
Exactly. All of our American listeners will be confused, but also have big grins on their faces at just listening to our beautiful accents.
Englishness.
Exactly, that's it. And so have you always lived in Chichester, or
no?
How did you find your way there?
Let me see now. Bristol via, which is England, via Swansea, which is Wales, via Midlands, via London, and then I came here. So I've been here about 8 years now. No, 9 years actually. 9 years.
Yeah. Wow. So you have been around our fair rolls. And
I just spent a decade here and a decade there. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many more years have you got left in Chichester before you then bounce somewhere else?
They say that 1 year, but I think this might be forever home now.
So, God, you know, I could have actually written a longer intro for you because you just have done so much. For our listeners, give a bit of your origin story, if you will, and how you kind of got to where you are today.
Yeah.
With the Profile.company.
Yeah, so where I am with that, the company is now 8 years old. I write people's LinkedIn profiles to position them as a go-to expert. And a big part of that is getting the foundations of the business right in the first place.
Yeah.
I came to it because I started my own business up in 2005 as a life coach. And made every single mistake in the book. And I mean literally every single mistake, because I wrote the book full of them, which is Grassroots to Green Shoots. It was a really good healing process for me to really pull it all together and figure out what was I did wrong, what would I do differently next time. And that came out in 2010. I was really recognized by quite a lot of very successful people. One of them had set up $3 billion brands.
Yeah.
He is actually responsible for internet banking and telephone banking, so really successful. And the other one had sold his business for quite close to £100 million. And both of them said, I would just think people knew this anyway. And I knew myself, and they confirmed it, that those that had the authority to write books and stand on stage and teach are well in advance of those who are in the starter seats learning, and that we need to learn how to change gears. They assume we know. So when I wrote Grassroots to Green Shoots, that's really what it is. It's a book about how to change gears and get your mindset right and learn these kind of things that you'd figure out on your own. No one's going to teach you. So that came out in 2007, at which point I had started, 2010 rather, at which point I had started working with a colleague where her business was marketing help for coaches, which was wonderful because that was me making an atonement for all the things I got wrong. I actually got to work in her business, attend every course module she did, and I actually started writing some of her course modules as well, and see how the marketing happened, and actually learn how to do it right. She then decided to get a master's, and she got headhunted, and she went off and did something else. And the business was not something she wanted to be concerned with. So she said, Naomi, do you want to just take over this business? You've written your book, Grassroots to Green Shoots. Now it's a really good match for you here. Do you want to take it? And I said, yeah, I do actually. So I made the first mistake in the book again, which was to not plan things out and just jump in head first. So I did that one again. And then there was a number of things within that just meant that it was fraught in terms of how I could move somebody else's business forward with the technology that was available back then, like bank accounts and credit cards. It's so different now. Yeah. It was just stuff that really made it hard, and I made more mistakes. And then I just got to this point, and I said, you know what, this is never going to work unless I get okay with sales. And the weird thing is that when I was at university, I did door-to-door sales, and I was really fantastic at it. My team actually was the top nearly every single week. And one week, out of 4 people in every team, my team was the top, and I was the only one working. So I had 4 times as many sales as everybody else. So I was good at sales, but something wasn't translating and doing it for myself, my coaching business for myself. Yeah. And so then I said, look, if you're going to stay in this game of entrepreneurship, you've got to figure sales out. So I took a course with somebody that I knew well, Mike Clark, and I did his sales training, and that really put me on his radar. So when I went off and I was doing sales elsewhere, and it wasn't really working out for various reasons, he then approached me and said, hey, Naomi, do you want to come and do sales for us? I fell off my chair. I really wanted to go work for him. And he was selling LinkedIn training. So that was my first sort of introduction into LinkedIn training. And Bert, who he ran the company with, had written the book, How to Really Use LinkedIn, which was being downloaded huge amounts at the time. And the book was also being given out to every new starter at LinkedIn itself. And the company, we were in and out of LinkedIn's head offices all of the time, building up relationships with them and their teams to promote our LinkedIn training. We were the only external provider invited in to their global conferences for 3-4 years running, and we would run the Rock Your Profile standing, and I ran the whole giving a LinkedIn profile review to lots of the CEOs and major people within those companies who were the managers of the LinkedIn account for those companies. And then one day we were coming out of LinkedIn's head office. We were in the taxi going back up to the airport, and I said, I don't understand what we're doing. You're having me selling LinkedIn training to small businesses. I'm going out and getting those leads, and that's all we're marketing to. But we've just had conversations all day where LinkedIn's going to open up all of their accounts to all of their major corporates, and they want us to go and deliver training and scale up and be able to deliver them training. So why is this different? Like, why am I doing one thing when that's the pull? And with that, the whole company completely changed in its focus and what we were doing. And because of my journey, having been a life coach, having run marketing help for coaches, and during that time, I'd started a course called Key Person Influence with Daniel Priestley, who you may have heard of. I was on his very first course in 2010 for that. And it was because of that course I wrote Grassroots to Green Shoots. And because of all of that training, I knew that my heart was in small businesses. And during all the LinkedIn profile reviews that I did, which was about 20 a week for 2 years, I'd really got a feel for what gets attention, what turns a person off, what makes a person read. And with the Key Person Influence training, how to actually pitch you to actually sell. And so that translated into me writing my book, What to Put on Your LinkedIn Profile. as a way of just putting all that information in one place, because I was repeating myself constantly. And I thought, let's just get this written down. This is a good book. So I did that. And then, this company went down a different direction, and I just knew it wasn't for me. And then I was like, because I was doing the LinkedIn profile reviews and I was selling the training and the people were coming along to the training courses, I would be able to ask them, did you implement what I said for your LinkedIn profile? And 99.9% of them didn't, because they were too close to their own subject to see it with any perspective. Mm-hmm. They weren't wordsmiths and they didn't have the time. And knowing that that's where I really wanted to be and that I had writing skills, I said, would you want me just to write it for you? And that was the start of the profile company, when I started writing people's LinkedIn profiles. So I was doing that for about 18 months when I started to realize that in the 90-minute interview that I do to actually find out what people do so I can write about it, they didn't have certain things sorted out in their business already. They didn't have a clear call to action. They didn't have packages. They weren't really as clear as they could be about the problem they solve and why. And I thought, okay, we're getting to that point now where I can't take on the business if they don't have those things sorted out already. There's an ethical side of it, because they weren't going to get return on investment. And I thought, well, how could I solve this for people? And then so I put together my course and my coaching program to actually solve those things and then get that onto the LinkedIn profile. Yeah. And then once it's on the LinkedIn profile, it's getting them started with the right content and then figuring out what's the right lead generation strategy for them as a person, for them as a lifestyle, and then their audience. What's their audience going to respond to? And then they go and find a different mentor. So I've never gone into the amplify massively, get your message out there big time kind of area. I'm all about building the strong foundations and getting onto LinkedIn profile and then working out what's the right lead generation strategy and then hone in on that. Yeah. And so that's what's brought me to where I am today.
Yeah. Because it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems your LinkedIn profile, it needs to be a reflection of obviously what you do, who you are, who you serve. Does it fall into the branding category?
Yeah, it does. It really falls into personal branding. And what's interesting is when people write things that look like sales pages, they really bother me. And I guess they really bother me because when I look at them, I realize that what they're doing is they're actually selling LinkedIn training. I call it selling pickaxes in a gold rush. It's okay if you're going to have lots and lots of people come by and they want to be talked to that way. But for most of us, we're building up a long-term relationship with our prospects, and we are experts in our field, and we have been for a long time. And the person that we're speaking to doesn't know that they have a problem and isn't looking for a solution. So therefore, your sales page, they're just going to go, and move straight on. They're going to get it at the beginning. You're probably putting some emojis out there and some big garish statement, and they're like, nope, that's not what I do. That's not the problem I have. And so they're gone. And the thing about LinkedIn that's so powerful is that where previously when your tap burst and you knew you needed a plumber and you looked under P in the yellow pages, and then we moved to Google and we put plumber in, people needed to know that they had a problem, and they need to be educated enough about their problem to know the keywords. Even our websites and Google require that. Whereas LinkedIn is a conversation that's constantly happening. And I didn't sign in today to find out about half the things I'm going to see in the feed. And that's where you can interrupt my day by talking about the symptoms of the problem you solve and awaken me to my problem and help me go, oh my goodness, actually, in your case, actually the way I dress and the things I wear are really important. I should take more care of this. Let me find out some more about it. This is really interesting. And you feeding me that relationship, I'm like, do you know what? I'm in London. I'm going to come see you. And because we've built that relationship, I'm going to be excited to see you. I'm going to feel honored to be the person in your fitting room having that ability, because you've told me so clearly why this is important, and I've gleaned from your expertise, and I trust you. Yeah. And so that's, the profile is just so important in terms of the relationship. And it is about knowing your market, knowing what they need to see and hear. Because if you are somebody like in the LinkedIn training arena, most people are an awareness. I need support with this. I'm ready to invest some budget in it. So you've got a massive portion of people, and the sales letter works. That version works. But for other industries and other things, it's just not going to fly.
Yeah. We basically we're reviewing a lot of because the one thing with businesses, when you start a business, especially solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and so on, when it comes to their marketing and what platforms they feel they need to feature on, very often they don't actually stop and think about it. They know there's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, probably some others that I'm forgetting right now, and they feel that they need to have a presence on every single one of them, which isn't necessarily the case. Because I know, for example, that Twitter is not really where my ideal audience. I think that they hang out there, but they're not you're not going to get C-suite level execs and so on that are sitting there, wasting their time scrolling through the dumpster fire that is most of everybody's Twitter feeds. They tend to be on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if they're on TikTok, so I don't put that much energy into it. And then I've just found out over the last few months that a few of them are actually on Instagram. They're not necessarily visible, but they certainly are on there, kind of just looking at things and so on. So that's helped us as a business to sort of start to focus our efforts a little bit more rather than spreading ourselves across all the platforms and doing it half-heartedly.
Yeah, it's really understanding where your market is and how they consume content, because especially and this is where it comes down to every business individually. We've got to think about the audience and what they're doing. CEO people, they're not sitting on social media wasting time, but actually I'm going to say that they probably are. They have a public image to maintain, so they're going to be very careful what they put out there. On LinkedIn, they may or may not go in very often because they might see it as a job thing or a lead generation, and they don't have to do that. But one thing they are doing, and one thing they do care about, is themselves. And actually, they probably do have private accounts on Instagram and do look at funny videos and do have a good old laugh at them, and do follow people that help them solve problems for themselves, because they do have problems that need solving. And dressing well and feeling confident in what they're wearing is a huge one, and they're not going to publicly necessarily come out and say, oh, I worry about this, but they're definitely going to want to consume videos on it and think about, and have someone on their side that's just taking care of it. And it's also about making sure that, I can see Instagram working very well for you for a lot of private accounts following that you wouldn't know they were there, and allowing them, if they want to, reveal themselves on LinkedIn by connecting with you. But the thing with Instagram is you can't say too much. It doesn't say who is Roberto. It doesn't let you go that deep into your career history. And that's why marrying it together with LinkedIn is so important, because your LinkedIn profile allows you to tell a story. It allows you to put your career history and how you got to this point and say so much more and turn it into a conversation. Your background image is like the room I'm standing in with you. When I look across the room and I see your face, I think that looks like a nice, funny person. I'll go and say hello. We say our names as our names. What do you do? I help people do this. Oh, okay, great. And then the conversation begins. And that's the about section. And then in our minds, it's like, well, how does he know how to do this? And that's the background. And then, well, I wonder if he, and they, sometimes people are just listening to you and they're like, oh, I wonder how he can help me. And that's the entry that you have for the business you're in and what you're selling. And so how can you help me is what we write in the experience entry for the company.
Yeah.
And then it all is, and so they're having this conversation with you at any time of the day, because they're reading your LinkedIn profile, and it all marries up. Maybe they've come in over from Instagram, or maybe they just found you here for the first time. Like, this makes absolute sense to me. I really need to know this person. And then it's like linking that to your call to action. The best thing is a link to your diary. Can't tell you how much great business has come through from just people putting themselves in my diary. And CEOs will do that at all times of the night. The bookings have come in at like 11:30 at night from that type of person, because that's the time then they're just scrolling around having a look and a think. And if you have to wait for them, they send you a message and then you have to go back to them, you've lost their attention. They need to take action in the very moment they're in and book the appointment and know that it works for their schedule. So it's linking it in a way that makes sense for them. And I said a minute ago, didn't I, it's like not all lead generation strategies are right. Like if you ask CEOs to come on a webinar, they're not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's figuring out that client journey and what feels right. And that might be to have, a 15-minute consultation via Zoom for you, where you can see them, eyeball them, so that you can get on, understand what they want, so you can prepare for their visit to your place, and they go, yeah, great, that's brilliant, I'll see you 4:00 on Thursday. And you say, brilliant, and bring these things with you, and what's your favorite drink, although to create the experience, so that there's that 15 minutes, what you would do on the phone really, if they just phoned in, but it puts you in a great position, because that 15 minutes they've cleared for you, they're prepared and ready for it, you're in your best place, and it's a video call. So it's really like building out that sales funnel and working out what's right for your audience.
It's and I guess because now I get so many mixed opinions on LinkedIn in the present day. I've been on LinkedIn since the very, very beginning. Have used it horribly. I mean, to be honest, over the years I've used it just to keep track of where my clients are when they move around. I think a lot of people do that. I've never really used it for job searches. I have used it for prospecting. But then, really in the way that I'll look at who my clients are connected to and then say, right, okay, these guys that work in your firm, who should I be talking to? But beyond that, there just seems to be so much noise on LinkedIn nowadays, because, if it's not a feed that kind of looks a bit like a Facebook or, sort of better than a Twitter feed, obviously, so, I like, the posts that always get attention are the ones that give some value. But then there are a lot of people that are kind of misusing their LinkedIn feeds, because they're posting stuff that really you're sort of like, I don't really come to LinkedIn to find out, what coffee you had this morning or where you walked your dog or whatever. That does nothing. There's no value in that for me. If I want to look at that stuff, then I'll go to Instagram for it and look at your stories. And then at the same token, there's that sort of LinkedIn fatigue that's creeping in, because so many people, and, I'm the same now as well, where I log into LinkedIn a couple times a week, and then all I see is a ton of connection requests from people who've done no homework on me whatsoever. And I just think to myself, oh, I can't be bothered with this. And so I just basically close it off again. So you get your profile right by obviously by working with you, but then you've got to get people to look at your profile, and then obviously that's through the content that you create. But how do you cut through the noise of everything else that's on there that is causing people to turn off, if you like?
It's about really standing for a problem that you solve. It can't just be generic. It can't just be, tailoring for tailoring's sake. It's about the niche and going deep with it, instead of wide with it. Because you don't need everyone to pay attention. You just need the right people to pay attention. I think TikTok is full of a wasted load of content, and I won't go on it, because the best stuff comes over to Instagram anyway. The popular stuff, you see the limp symbol, I'm like, that came from TikTok, it's obviously popular, I'll just get it within the best stuff on Instagram. And I would say, because you're so visual in what you do, and because there is a personal side to what you do, then Instagram is the place to focus. But and you might put up a lot of content, like, because you probably like a couple a day or a week. The best pieces that have just that more edge of professionalism, you can repurpose them on LinkedIn. So it's the same content, but it's just tailoring it more just to get that professional level. And doing it in a way that everything, when I see it, I know it belongs to you. I call it like leaves of a tree. I can have a lot. It's like going out in a storm and all these leaves are coming at you, right? Um, how do you know which tree it came off of? When you pick a leaf, you can look at it, and if you know your trees, you know what tree, it came from. And it's exactly the same with us. We could put pieces of content up and no one would recognize it belongs to us. But then when people start to get used to our brand, they're flicking through and they see that familiarity and they stop because they know it belongs to you before they've even seen your name. And that leaf needs to belong to a tree that they understand and that they get, right? And this is the bit that people forget. And I've got in my course, I've got a great, lovely picture of a tree, and it has all the leaves coming off of it. And it's about making sure people know that's an oak tree. You are an oak tree. This is what you stand for. And you don't change. You are about tailoring. You're about doing it for the C-suite, and you're making sure that they look, they look as good as the people in the TV show Suits. I mean, they always look good, don't they? They've got tailored suits on, top of their game, earning tons of money as lawyers. And people, that desirability that people have, and when they have the need for that as well and the budget for that, your post will resonate with them and they'll want to follow because it hits a point with them. And then with that, it's also about you, the person, because we can solve problems for people, but do I want to solve this problem with you? Do I get that you understand me? Do you get the desired outcome or result that I actually want? Because, there are lots of tailors in the world, but can you give me what I want? And that is the best looking suit that does the job in the boardroom I'm going into. But it's also the experience I have when I come to see you. Is there fabric all over the floor and bits of thread? Or is it a really nice room with a really creative wallpaper that says, this is the life I choose to live, and the specialty tea or coffee, and the experience that they have when they come is part of it. And it's how you leave people feeling, right? So all of those things that would put your brand at the top, those are the things that you want to have come through your content, so people see that desirability, see that you get them, and see that they understand. And then it's bringing that through onto your LinkedIn profile, because your profile is it is a suit. It is feeling dressed well. And actually, quite a lot of my clients, when their profile's in place, they have added spring in their steps because they know that they are dressed well. They're not going to get embarrassed because their suit, the hems come out and it's, or it's the wrong fabric and it's been washed too many times. And, they're not going to be embarrassed because they can confidently send someone to the profile and know that it does the job.
Yeah, well, your LinkedIn profile is a reflection of you, I guess, right? If you're, I love that you keep using clothing analogies and relating it back to my business. This is brilliant. Hopefully, everybody at home is sort of internalizing it, relating it to their own. But it's like when you're dressed well and you're feeling good and you walk out the door and you just take a quick look at yourself up and down in the mirror. If everything's right, you walk out with confidence.
Yeah.
And if there's something that's not quite right, you sort of think, if you've got time, you kind of run back upstairs to change it or whatever. And your LinkedIn profile is exactly the same, I guess. I mean, it's like now, if I said to you, if you asked me honestly, Bobby, are you happy with your LinkedIn profile and the way it looks? I would say to you, no, I'm not. I think it's okay. But okay is not where I am. Like Harvey Specter, you gave the Suits example, one of my favorite shows ever. Well done.
Ever, yeah.
Harvey says, most people are like this. I like this. I was just, for anyone listening, I was, putting my hand about medium level and then raising it up. And my LinkedIn profile definitely, I don't think, is a reflection of me, and definitely doesn't actually show it. Kind of probably reads a little bit more like a CV and talks a little bit about the problem I solve. And I think when you look at most people's LinkedIn profiles, they are, it's kind of like, okay, I need to put my name in, I need to put my job title, and then I just need to list all of the places that I've ever worked at, and I need to list all the places that I did GCSEs and things at. And that's it. There's nothing beyond that at all. So you do all of this hard work, putting great value content out there, for someone to then go to your LinkedIn profile and say, okay, this looks interesting.
Yeah.
This is, and then suddenly they look at your profile and it's like, okay, I don't get this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, do you want me to like tell you about your profile? And all the other listeners.
Have you just pulled it up?
Oh, I've had it here since the very beginning.
Oh my God. Go on then. Go for it.
Well, look, I've read into a few things of what I would expect and want to think that you do. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got this site on Tottenham Court Road. You obviously have to see people, they have to come in, and you want to work with the top level people, right? To give them suits, the best suits that are out there. And you agree with me that Harvey Specter just nails it every time.
100%.
So one thing I can understand, I can get, right, is that most of your C-suite people would also know who Harvey Specter is, because they do watch TV, and if they are going to watch it, that's one they're going to enjoy. So we can make a bit of a play on that, if you like, to say, I get it, I'm looking at the same thing as you, right? And if there is a good Harvey Specter quote about looking good, I would get it and I would put it in the background of your background image, so it stands out. At the moment, your background image says back in 2011, and I don't know what comes after it. But it's cut off somehow. But it does look like a little flyer that I'm going to get. If I walk down Tottenham Court Road and there's somebody there and they're able with the flyer, that's the kind of, it's not matching your ideal audience at this point. It's not creating that desirability. And then talking to you and seeing how personable you are, I would want to see that your photo, your headshot is the real you. And I get why we have this photo of you looking very posh in the suit. I get that. But that's actually the result your clients are going for, whereas actually you're the one they're working with. So I want to see the real you, because you're going to become my best friend. You know, I read the about section and you say, like, if something's not working, we're going to go above and beyond to sort it out. So I need to know that you're my friend and that I can call you and you're very relatable. So I would want to see that come through on your profile. And you also address yourself as Bobby, don't you?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. So Roberto brackets Bobby would really work there, so that people know, okay, that's his full name, but this is what he wants to be known as. With your about section, you're kind of almost there, but a lot of that content, I mean, this is going to change probably before people listen to the podcast. We want this to be evergreen.
Straight after this call, I'm going to edit this episode.
Yeah, weekend exactly. Is cancelled. But so I'll just try and do this evergreen, okay, so that people listening won't actually think what I'm talking about is still there. But you have put a credential statement, and I knew this from the bio when we met, that you're award-winning at what you do, and you're shortlisted rock and roll Taylor. So what I would want to see in your about section is really nailing that. Well, who has recognized you? How? Because you've been in this industry a long time, right? And you've got the respect.
20 years now.
Yeah, and you get the respect that you want, right, in the industry. So it's about saying, 20 years experience working with, maybe drop some names, but high-end clients and the problem that you solve. I want to know these credentials, that you're just not coming out of nowhere. And then the key thing, and I kind of referred to this before, when it comes to the business that you're in, what we want to do is we want to create this is how I work with people, and almost like your packages, you want to create that great experience. And they don't have a lot of time. So they want to know that they're in a process and they're moving forward with you. So it's, how do you work with people? What does that look like? And what is that experience? But it's not to say I so much as this is what you'll experience with me, and this is what the brand is, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, create a company page so you can get a logo onto here. And all of the content that you share on Instagram, share it on your company page. So when I come to your company page, I can saturate myself in your content.
Oh.
But you as a person, share 3 times a week on LinkedIn of your best stuff, okay? Because I need a gentle drip feed on coming from you. Once I've chosen that I want to know more about you, I want to be saturated. So if you do have an Instagram strategy already, brilliant, because that is a lot of content, right?
Yeah.
So that can all just double up over there, and that will really work for you. So the company page is the benefit of the company page, if of nothing at all. If someone is listening doesn't have that content in the Instagram, that's fine. Just make sure you have the company page so you can get the logo, and make sure the company page makes sense, has a call to action, and uses the lead generation form tool that's there. Because that company page, when it shines through on the LinkedIn, firstly, it says, I've taken care of the profile because you've not got the grey and blue skyscraper, whatever they're supposed to be. I think they're skyscrapers. That's not there. And you're getting an opportunity for brand recognition. Your logo starts to become more rememberable. And if you do have employees, of course, it goes through onto their profiles as well. So we want to do that for all of the companies we're involved in. And that would include also doing exactly the same with the podcast entry that you've got on here as well. And then with the podcast entry or any entries people have got, it's what is the problem this is solving? Why am I doing it? Why am I qualified to do it? And how can you get in touch? One of the things big things I do in the coaching program I have is really looking at these packages and how, the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the paycheck. So what is the value? What is someone going to get from this? And instead of charging by the hour, how can you charge a bulk price for the transformation that they're after? And it's really explaining, this is how I work with people. And then the past experience entries would talk about how you learned what you learned, how you came up with the philosophy that you have. So the people who read that, who get that far, are those who are at the 11th hour about to buy, or they've just bought and they're having buyer's remorse and they're like, what did I do? They're the ones that are going to dive that deep. And then the about section, like I said before, it's a conversation you're having with people. So let's talk about the problem that you solve in the immediate open paragraph. Why is the way you look so important? And it's not about educating everybody on why that's important. It's elevating what your core audience already know about it. So they go, oh, he gets it. But also the average Joe could read it and go, oh, great, that's interesting. We just want it to land like, oh my God, you get me. And whatever that is, it's not just looking good. It is about looking good, but it's also about opening the wardrobe and seeing the options. It's also about knowing that from Monday to Friday, you don't have to question what you're wearing. No decisions need to be made. But you also don't need to be Mark Zuckerberg and have 20 of the same T-shirt and wear the same thing every single day. It's about being able to pack a suitcase and know that you've got everything in it from every layer of clothing, and that it all works well together. It's about being able to tell your maid, because I'm sure they would have one at that level, this is how you launder it, please put it in, and actually let's make sure Sunday night everything's aligned. There's more to this and the experience I have with you than it is about you cutting the suit to shape. Do you know what I mean? It's more than that. And then what do I do if I get caught out because my luggage gets lost and what I'm wearing that day? These things, because they're traveling, and it's actually recommending to them the best suitcase that they could have. It's all of these added extras, and it's communicating that and showing that on the LinkedIn profile in a way that people get it, and then inviting the right people with yourself to that 15 minutes consultation so you can check that they're the right caliber, because you don't take everybody on. Yeah. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so those are the things, when you get that right and you think about how somebody reads, as soon as they land on the profile, you're making an impression. Is this somebody who's taking care of themselves, or is it not? Is this somebody who's talking to me or talking about themselves? Is this somebody who has organized the paragraphs to look nice and actually I can read them? Because over a certain length, we can't read, our eye just cannot follow the line on the screen.
Yeah.
And we're skim reading all the time. Is this useful to me? Is this a good use of time? So it's thinking about these things as I got it to go, okay, that's jumping out to me. And that's why these days we have a lot of 5-letter paragraphs, because 5-word paragraphs, because for that point to be made, it needs to jump out. And so, yeah, it's about really building that relationship up through the about. So that once I've seen your content and I start to go, gosh, this is really curious, I then come through and have a great time and get to know you, feel like I've spoken to you and gone, that's a really great, nice person, really qualified, really skilled at what he does. And I want what he's got. That's what we want from your profile.
This has been the titanic struggle for me, because I struggled with Instagram for years and years. I don't see the point of it. But I knew that I needed to probably be on there because it's quite visual, but then I wasn't sure my audience was on there. But then sometimes you'll get a client who'll WhatsApp you with a screenshot from Instagram and you didn't even know they were on that platform. And they said, I just saw you posted this. I love it. Can you add that to my list for next time we get together or whatever? Right. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I need to be here. And then you get people saying your Instagram feed's a bit messy, which it was. And I will relate this back to LinkedIn. I know we're not here to talk about Instagram today. But you need to go and do a photo shoot or a video shoot, or I get people approaching me on LinkedIn to say, hey, we've had a look at your Instagram profile and your LinkedIn profile and the content that you're putting out, and it's great. But what we do is this, and what we need to do with you is we need to go and do a fancy video shoot at, the Savoy or somewhere like that, and, have lots of photographs in your beautiful clothes and you doing things at the bar and all of this. And I'm kind of like, that's it's not really me.
Yeah.
And B, what does that say to anybody? And also C, everybody else in my industry does that, is really vain.
Yeah.
And I'm not that person. So long story short, about a couple months ago, I made a video for a client who'd asked me a question. I get questions all the time, and I've started just sort of collating them so that I can write articles answering those questions and then start creating little videos. And I've really got into creating these little short, less than 60 seconds, answering these questions that I get asked all the time. Like, how and why would you wear a collar bar? And are shoe trees necessary, etc., etc.? How do you pack a suit for travel? And suddenly my Instagram engagement has just shot up through the roof.
Imagine. Yeah.
The feedback I'm getting and so on. And the other great thing with those videos I've started to realize is that they're actually really good just for sort of repurposing and posting on LinkedIn, because the people asking those questions are the people who are on LinkedIn.
Yeah, this is so important. That's why your photo on LinkedIn doesn't work for me, because you are not the brand. They are the brand. They are the ones who are looking really good. They are the ones who want to be like Harvey Specter. They're the ones with real problems making that happen. And they don't want you to be their equal in, look at how dressed I'm, better dressed I am today. Look how good I am at this, and you're not. They want you to be their helping hand. They want you to mentor them. They want you to solve problems on their behalf. So if you think about who they're being at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, scrolling through Instagram, interested in what you've got somebody who is concerned about the week ahead, concerned about meetings they're going to, concerned about who they're meeting. They're concerned about how they're presenting themselves, how they're going to get their kids to school, how they're going to pack that bag for Friday night to go on that weekend away trip, and perhaps the CEO's someone's going with that's important, and how they're going to get the washing done for the week after. That's actually the problems they're looking to solve, and they need those problems solved, and they want those problems solved by someone that they can relate to, who is simply not patronizing you, not putting you down, not saying I've got this sorted and I'm perfect, but it's telling you the answer, who's coming right alongside. And that's what they want, is you to come alongside, not look better than them, because there is enough people out there that they can say, hey, I want to look like that. That's fine, but they want someone who to come alongside them. And that's what your Instagram feed is doing. It's coming alongside, meeting them where they're at and helping them. And that's exactly what I'd recommend. It's a lovely way of being, because you're the friend who's going to sort it out when it goes wrong.
I think it kind of gives, by doing that also, it gives them a gateway into what it would be like to be stood, or for me to be stood in front of them, helping them, because they feel like they're kind of getting to know you and your personality and so on. And people, I think people go on an energy when they meet people for the first time or see people for the first time. It's that whole first impression thing. And obviously anyone who, in my case, watches one of my reels and thinks I'm a plonker or I'm an arrogant twat, try not to come across that way. Isn't someone, even if we did meet in real life, they're probably not going to be someone I'm going to get on well enough to serve them to the best of my ability. But it's kind of using that content to get their curiosity up enough to then obviously look at your credentials and then start to follow you. And it might not be that they can work with you at that point in time. God knows I've had people who, one of my recent clients actually, I'd never even seen him on my radar. He had been following me on LinkedIn for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never heard of him. And then one day he pops up out of the blue, sends me a direct message on LinkedIn. How can I book an appointment with you? My role's now changed. I've been following you for 6 years. I absolutely, love what I see you do. And I decided a long time ago that when I was in the position financially to be able to do it, I wanted you to be my guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And we get on like a house on fire. I love this guy. He's only been a client for about 3 months, but already I just love him to bits. If he's listening to this, he'll probably know he'll probably know that I'm talking about him. Don't get a big head. So I have no idea the point I was aiming towards there.
We were talking about relatability and coming alongside and helping.
Exactly. Now, the one thing I have noticed you haven't done, but a lot of, in fact, probably every other kind of book, podcast, seminar, workshop that I've ever listened to, looked at, read on LinkedIn, the primary focus has been on how you reach out to people directly, how you message them, how you prospect, how you use Navigator, how you use video messaging. It's all been about outreach. You have not talked about that once because your focus, it seems to me, what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Naomi, is that if you get the fundamentals right, if you get your content right and you get your profile right, the right people will want to connect with you. You don't need to then do what 99% of the rest of the world seems to be doing, which is spamming everyone with, hey, I saw your LinkedIn profile and what you do looks really interesting. And now I'm going to try and sell you my services. Can we connect?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you definitely don't want to do that. Connect and spam. No marriage proposals. It is an interesting one because just writing it and leaving it there is not going to do a great deal. You do need to be working it. But I'll tell it to you in two different ways. There's the working it, which I'm happy to go into in a second. But there's also, if you are fabulous at what you do, which you are, and how many clients could you possibly work with at one time, do you think?
I think if we had
well, let's just put it out there. So let's say 100.
Yeah.
And maybe they're tiered into how much they want and how much attention they're getting, right? But all 100 of them really, really loved you and got what you do. And they all know people that could work with you. Not everybody, but they can qualify leads for you. Like, this guy is ready for you. And they made the introduction. You're sorted, right? Because you're getting all the referrals from your clients. So number one, take care of the people you've got. Number two, stay in front of mind and empower them to want to tell people about you. Your LinkedIn profile is your brochure. It needs to look as good as professional as your brochure. They're not going to walk around with your brochures. They're not going to be able to hand your brochure over. A lot of their meetings are virtual, or they're just not going to pass your leaflet, right? But they are going to say, oh, you want to check them out on LinkedIn. Now, they're probably not going to go check him out on LinkedIn and book an appointment. What they're going to do is say, check him out on LinkedIn because he is sharing some good content, because that's going to warm them up to you. But if they're really ready to buy and they know that they're going to be in London, they're going to come via your LinkedIn profile. And a part of it, the trust will pass from one person to the other, that they'll just bypass what it looks like and just book the appointment, right? But what if you can really wow them and get them really excited to come to the appointment? Because trust doesn't always pass from one to the other quite the way you expect. So there is that kind of thing. And then that's in the physical world. But in the online world is you're posting content and you or you comment on something, and let's say you post some content and your brilliant customer comments on it, that's going to go out to his network. And that network's going to go, well, I want to know what that's more of that, what that's about. And so without a word being spoken, they're coming in to you. So it's two sides of it, where write your profile, you don't have to do much else because your customers are doing the legwork for you. But that doesn't always work. It's about doing the content to be active and be seen at the social parties and talking about stuff and getting people's attention. So yes, you do want to do the content. But where people fail is that, and I know this is true because I've seen people come to me who've been on these, LinkedIn challenges and what have you. They haven't actually got any paid business from it whatsoever. They have 11,000 followers and no paid business because the business wasn't structured behind the scenes. Or they went on a bigger course and there was one module on what are your packages? You've got to get packages, so then they rush to put their packages together without actually testing them correctly. So the business behind the profile doesn't work. And then the profile does nothing to say, this is who I am, what I do. So they're putting out a lot of content. A lot of leaves are flying by, but nobody knows what tree it belongs to. And if they do come to the profile, the tree looks like it's going to collapse next week anyway, because it's just a spawny little runt of a tree. It's not the big glazing big thing. And that's the difference, is we need the profile to back up everything you do. So they go, oh, this is a person I want to work with. Oh, he works with people like me. This is good. Or, oh, I want to be the kind of person he's going to work for. I'm going to follow and I'm going to watch for 5 years into however long till it happens. And they're like, oh yeah, he's the person I want to work with. So I'm going to book an appointment and I'm going to get down there and do that. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, it is both. It really is both, because to just do so many times, you're getting reached out to and stuff, and you look at their profile and you're like, well, who are you? Why would I follow you? Like, what are you actually offering me? There's nothing slick and proper about it. I don't know if those are the words, but
I said no. It totally makes sense. I get approached by people, and then I will look at their profile. Well, if it doesn't look like a copy and paste message, which most of them are, if it looks like they have actually done some homework on me, I'll take a look at their profile. But then if their profile isn't telling me, like you said at the very beginning of this, what problem do I have that they're able to solve? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Right. Then I'm kind of like, okay, well, this isn't for me. And then I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to want to connect with them or listen to what they've got to say. They're not going to get past that with me. And I imagine that's the same for a lot of people as well. It's, God, I could talk to you about this all day. We are going to definitely be keeping in touch. So what I want to make sure that I do before we run out of time is, Naomi, thank you so much for that. That was brilliant. I didn't mean for it to turn into a mini little masterclass for me specifically, but I really hope everyone was able to sort of, kind of relate everything to themselves. And I think the Amazon guys just turned up. I don't know if you can hear that barking in the background, but my cabochon's just gone absolutely flipping mental. People have been listening to this thinking, my LinkedIn profile is a dumpster fire. I really want to connect with Naomi and then maybe look at getting some help on this. How can people connect with you, and how can they work with you?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn, Naomi Johnson. It says expert LinkedIn profile right at the top, and the URL is Naomi Johnson UK. So that's one way. But if they would like, they can come and get some very specific tools. And that's on my website. What I'm going to be offering them there is an 18-question scorecard, which they can use to assess whether they have the assets in their business to make LinkedIn work for them, and if LinkedIn is working for them. So I'll run them through those questions, and then give them a score at the other end with some real key tips and everything of what to do better and how. And then from there, you're very welcome to download a copy of my book, The Expert Economy. And we can also book in a one-to-one to actually have me learn about your business, learn about what you're up to in the world and what you're doing. And then I'll provide you tailored advice for your LinkedIn profile, and they can either do it themselves if they feel like they can, or of course I do write people's LinkedIn profiles these days, mostly within the coaching program, of really sorting these things out that cannot be rushed. There's quick wins. We can get you out there as quickly as possible doing stuff, but to really thrash it out, to get it right, we've got to get those foundations of the business right first as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. I'll make sure I have all of those links in the show notes. Naomi, thank you so much. Have you had fun today?
I have. I just realised I just need to say what the link. I'll just say verbally what the thing is, in case someone's washing the dishes, as people do. If they just want to go to the profile.company, so that's the words, the profile dot and then company, the full word / tailoring talk. Then that's where you'll find me, is tailoring talk. So the profile.com / tailoring talk, and you can get the bonuses that I've mentioned here, especially for you guys listening.
That's amazing. I'm trembling a little bit because you're the first guest in over 100 episodes to not only give a link, but also to personalize it to the podcast as well. So thank you for that.
That's all right.
I'm just using the link on your LinkedIn profile to do my little personal score thing. Obviously not now because we're still recording, but straight after this.
You could, and it only takes 2 minutes. You literally could have she's just giving out a website address. Click. It's a 2-minute thing. But do come and get the results on that. And and you can see what I do is a lot deeper than just the profile. It's really delving into the business and what the product is and what's being provided and the journey of that prospect and how they get involved, and all of those things have to come together for the LinkedIn profile to work, for then your content to work, and then it's knowing the right strategy for you. Being like Instagram and LinkedIn is not that for you. Going prospecting and actually reaching out to people is not that for you. LinkedIn for you is a backup to Instagram and a point towards it sometimes as well, because I might see this during the working day on LinkedIn and say, actually, I will follow that. I'll just send myself a note to follow that tonight, So it's working the two together, but it is about being well-dressed and tailored. Yes.
Brilliant. Oh, no, thank you so much. I absolutely love it when I meet someone who's as passionate, not just about your subject, but about helping people through that as well. So thank you so much for everything that you've shared today.
My pleasure.
I feel like I've made a new friend as well, which is a bonus.
Well, I'm connecting with you on LinkedIn now anyway, so that's good. Following you, ring your bell.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, and I went past the follow button on your profile and straight into connect. So
great.
Thank you for that. We'll definitely be keeping in touch. Naomi, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for joining Naomi and I on this episode. Don't forget, Tailoring Talk is on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast, and I love feedback, so email me at the usual address. Please remember to subscribe, rate and review. You can also click the share button in your player. Very important. Send this episode on to people who will get some help or be inspired by what Naomi and I discussed today. And if you're enjoying Tailoring Talk and want to support the show, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com /Roberto Revilla. Have a great week. Be good to each other. And I'll see you on the next one.